Oh, okay. That place is like just a house. Renovators is like a vegetarian. Really? It's around here?
Yeah, it's like one street over.
Okay, come on in, guys. All right, now before we talk about our next site, I want to ask you guys a question. How do you guys feel about seeing pictures of dead bodies?
Good.
Never seen one before.
Never stopped.
Okay, now, I'm going to set the scene for you. It's family photo. Everybody shows up, even your drunk uncle. He has the audacity to die on the couch. What do? You take the picture. Okay, no, you paid a lot of money on this, okay? So in reality, postmortem photography is the perfect storm. It is emotional trauma from the Civil War. It is the rise of spiritualism, and it's the invention of photography. See, the one thing is, you guys seen Victorian photographs, right? You know how nicely people are dressed? It's because it's the only photograph that's ever going to be taken of them. So they're wearing the best thing they own. It was quite expensive at that time. And if you didn't get a photograph in life, you might get a photograph in death. Because they didn't want to remember you as if you were dead. They wanted to remember you as if you were alive. A young woman posing with her parents. She has passed. A young woman where they painted the eyes on her.
Ooh,
Pretty crazy.
that's disturbing.
Posing with your brother.
Okay.
And this one is unfortunately my favorite. I call it somebody's gonna need therapy later.
Oh.
She has been forced to pose with her dead brother, and he draped his arm over her shoulder. Now, I get a lot of people who ask, how do you get them to stand up? You just need one of these.
Oh my gosh.
And one of the things that's actually very interesting about photography in general, if you guys notice that Victorian photos actually had an extra long exposure time, so you had to stand still for it. That's how when you see postmortem photography, you can tell who the dead one is, because they are the only one that's completely clear in the picture because they're not even breathing.
That's scary.
Now, when we originally designed the tour, we knew we had to have a restaurant on it, because Orange is known for two things: antique stores and restaurants. But every restaurant that we knew of that was known for its activity, we said, can we talk about it here? And they're like, no. We want people to come. Unless, of course, you ever dine at Rue de Bagor's across the street. It used to be Tony's Mexican food. Until it was purchased by Victoria, the woman who owns the Rue de Bagor's chain. And she decided to turn it back into the 1915 Craftsman Ranch home that it was. Now, remember we talked about what happens if the place is known for its activity and you start refurbishing it, and that's exactly what happened. Pictures were popping off of the walls. Doors will swell, even on a cold morning, but it acts like it's a hot summer to where nobody can open the door, and then somebody will walk by and it will randomly pop open. The owner thought that the restaurant would fail, but it obviously has done quite well over the years. They kind of have a symbiotic relationship with it. Every once in a while, something really weird happens. Everybody acknowledges it, and life goes on. Some of the most common activity when you talk to the people who work there, one of the busmen was actually working at a table, and just one single pane of the window, one of the windows started shaking as if it would almost break. yet all the other panes are completely still. There have been at least 2 spirits seen in the house. When you walk into the main dining room, there's a second dining room that's usually curtained off. And when it is open, people will see an elderly woman standing there. And when they do a double take, she is gone. As well as a gentleman in a checked work shirt has been seen walking by, sometimes carrying a ladder. And when people ask if work is being done there, they will say nobody is doing any work here. People believe that it is the original owners that lived in the house for over 50 years before they both passed in the house.
Shoot.
The food is quite good. Okay, especially
On a positive
Halloween
note.
time, pumpkin hummus is the best.
Ooh.
It is. It's really good. Pumpkin hummus. Now, but the only
Never
thing
had
is,
that before.
remember that when you go there to dine, the empty table across from you is not as empty as you thought. Let's No, we're actually we're turning around. See that house over there? Is it? No, there's people in the front yard. I don't want to disturb them. So, you guys know when we walked in front of the alcove where we talked about the ranch home. And for those of you who lived in Orange for a long time, you guys might remember it, A Shade of Purple, Not Seen in Nature. The tea house. I actually know Carol, the woman who owned the tea house.
My friend had her bridal shower.
Yeah, and it was Carol was the first person to come to us to talk about it being haunted. Now the thing, let's talk about this really quickly. If a house can be haunted, what about objects within a house?
Yes.
Yes.
Including like every creepy doll ever, right?
Yes. Oh my god.
Now the one thing is, when she bought the house to open it up as a business, it had no recorded activity that she could find. And then she decorated it with Victorian objects. Okay? Now, one of the most common activity that she had was people would be dining in the main dining room, and then the staff would go into the back of the house to go to the kitchen and prepare the next service. They'll hear people running around upstairs. Thinking that those people got up and they helped themselves, they'll go upstairs, and then they realize they are the only ones up there. Carol was a believer in the paranormal, and so she brought in a couple of different groups to investigate, including 2 psychics out of Los Angeles. And everybody had the same conclusion. Whatever is going on in the house, there was one room that was actually decorated as a nursery, complete with Victorian toys. Now, I could find only one death associated with this house. And that was a young woman who actually fell off of that balcony right there and landed in the front yard. She landed poorly. She actually broke her neck in the fall. Now the one thing is, that's the story I used to tell for a very long time on the tour, until I had a very sweet elderly woman on my tour who knew way too much about the town of Orange. And I'm like, wow, you really know a lot. And I go, may I ask what you do? And she goes, oh, I work for the Orange Historical Society. And I'm like, ah, crap. But the only thing is, that's where we were for months when we opened up the tour. And she goes, there was actually another death associated with this house. It's World War II. If you had a large home, you had it divided into apartments because there's a lot of factories in the area supporting the war effort. They allowed a young woman to live right above the front door, a single mother. And she was a little mentally unbalanced, and one night she will drown her own child in a bathtub. The police were called. She was quietly removed. Never made the papers. It would be bad for the town morale. The only way you even know it'll exist, it is the coroner's report and the police report, and those are not easy to find. But that might explain the activity surrounding the old nursery. Carol retired a few years ago, and the house is now owned by the evil empire. It's Chapman. It's actually the alumni house for their media school. And when they found out that we stopped here on the tour, they actually emailed us and sent us pictures of the inside of the restoration of the house, and they did a great job. And so we had a chance to like send emails to each other, and then we finally decided to drop the bomb and say, Kill retired and all the objects are gone, but does the haunting still remain? And the only thing they'll ever say is no comment. Let's go. We're gonna walk down this street, and I want you guys to take a really good look at Wahoo's Fish Tacos. Now, I don't like to stop in front of Wahoo's Fish Tacos, quite simply because it's a nice night and people are probably outside eating. And there's like 4 of them and 30 of us, and things just get awkward. Okay, so as we walk past the street, take a look at the Wahoos, and then meet me around the corner because there's nothing weird about that. Everybody's there.
Oh, there's someone out here. Actually sounds kind of good.
Come on in, everybody. Come on in. Okay, so you guys got a good look at the Wahoo's Fish Tacos? Mm-hmm. The Vineland Hotel, $18.99. What hotel? The Vineland. Okay. Now the thing is that a lot of people never even knew that that building existed. It was there the entire time.
It was kind of covered up.
Because the person who owned this building, it was once a church, owned this building and the Vineland Hotel. So to buy themselves a little extra square footage as well as preserve the Vineland Hotel, they built a facade that looked just like this building that stretched all the way to Country Roads Antiques, encapsulating the whole front of the building inside of another building. Now the thing is the Vineland Hotel was like a middle-class hotel, and it turned into office buildings and stuff over the years. And then when it was purchased by the church, they used to do Sunday school classes there, and it kind of fell to pieces because they didn't know how to take care of a Victorian building. Water damage and everything that took place, and so they eventually abandoned it. I want to welcome you to the Vineland Hotel. It's not an orb, it's a dust particle, relax. Okay? Now, we actually knew the owners of the building, and so they let us spend a lot of time exploring the building. Including, we were allowed to set up microphones throughout, and then we'd go back and record, get the microphones and listen to them. Do you guys know what an EVP is? Electronic Voice Phenomenon? We actually, when we collected the tapes and we listened to the tapes completely unedited, you could hear muffled conversations going on upstairs, even though we are the only ones that were ever in the building. As well as downstairs, in one of the old kitchen areas, we could actually get on tape one of our guides talking to one of the investigators, and they're talking about the kitchen. And then in the background, you will hear the whinnying of a horse. Ooh. Now, I grew up in a rural part of San Diego known as El Cajon. I know what a horse sounds like. And when we asked the person who let us in, what's different about this room, and he showed us that right outside that window was once a stagecoach stop when it was a hotel. So we picked up an EVP not of a human, but of an animal that's been dead for over 100 years.
Dang.
Let's make our way. Watch your step, please, on the curb. Or go over the chain, but there's a curb right there.
Oh, shoot.
There you go. That's okay. Just watch your step on the curb.
Okay.
There you go. You made it.
Yeah.
I like to make sure we all get over the curb. Okay, come this way, please.